All right, so let's use this. Let's see how this works. For in the last class, we talked about working with a single table, right? And that that table might have been course, and a course might have had a title, and might have had a price, and these were the attributes for that table or that class. And we implemented a small web application to interact with this single table, right? We created pages that use the grid view, right, to be able to display the data in that table in a tabular format, right? We use the detail view to display a form that would allow you to modify or insert a single record, right? View one record at a time. And we saw that all of these were using a SQL data source, right, as a means to connect to a database, right? And the SQL data source implemented various CRUD operations, right? It created all the CRUD operations were here, right? We had inserts, commands, right? We had select statements, and we had updates, and we had deletes, right? And we played around with these command, SQL commands. We modified them, we customized them, right, so that we can implement various pages, so that we can parameterize them from the URL string, right? Right. So that's what we worked on in the last class. So, but there's quite a bit more that we can use for our data model, as opposed to just having one table. We can have many tables, right? Tables that are related to one another. Perhaps you might have maybe a faculty, right? That is maybe related to a course. So that faculty maybe is the one who authored the course, right? And perhaps a faculty, one faculty might have generated or authored many courses, okay? And you might have also several students associated to a particular course, right? So you might have a student table that is a particular student might be, one student might be registered in many courses, but in one course there might be several students registered in that one course, right? We typically denote that by having a single relationships here, saying asterisk asterisk is a many to many, right? Now there's no one way to implement that physically. So typically what we do is instead we modify this into an additional table that serves as a mapping, right? That maps and says that that particular student is registered in that particular course, right? And then in this table we might be a registration table or an enrollment table, saying, right, what the relationship is between these two entities, right? And so from the point of view of the course, we still have the case that we have for one course we might have many, right? From looking from the point of view, so from the point of view of the course, we still have one course, many whatever, right? And from the point of view of the student, right? If the student looks the other way, we still have one student related to many other things, right? So we still have these one-to-many from the point of view of each from each data set, right? From the data set of the courses, we still have each data point in the course associated to many data points in the student data set, and from the student's point of view, same thing, right? For each one student, we have many courses associated, right? And this is how we might implement it. Now, to implement these relationships, typically the way we implement it in relational data models is that we define a primary key right, on the one side, right? So for instance, we call this also the strong side, right? So the faculty is associated to many courses. So since we know exactly how many faculties there are, that's the strong side of the relationship. So that's why we implement that by a primary key, by uniquely identifying each record in that table, in that data set. In the weak side or the many side, the way we implement the fact that there is a relationship between these two is that we implement it using a foreign key, right? Where you have a course be aware of the relationship. It is the course who knows what faculty authored it, right? It is not the faculty who knows who authored what courses they authored, right? Notice that this is somewhat backwards on how we would implement this in object models, right? In object models, it would be the other way around, right? It would be the faculty that would have maybe a collection or an array or some kind of collection of references back to the instances of courses, and the course typically might not be even aware of the faculty who authored it, right? But nevertheless, we are interested here on how to capture this in a relational model, right? Which is SQL Server. So that's how we implement this on this side. On the excuse me. On the many-to-many implementation, what we have here is that on the weak side is really implemented by this over here, the enrollment. The enrollment is who is implementing the two weak sides, right? The enrollment is the one who's referencing and saying which course, right, is related to which student, right? Right, saying so this one has two foreign keys, right? It has a foreign key back to the course and a foreign key back to the student, right? Saying that course has that student, right? And so that the enrollment table can reference the students and the courses. We also have primary keys on both of these, right? So the course have both primary and foreign keys. The student only has primary keys, right? And the enrollment only has foreign keys, right? Now this as it stands right now, we call this a mapping table when we strictly are using it to relate two things, all right? If we additionally want to capture other information in here, such as maybe the grade you got in that course, right? Maybe the grade, right? And maybe other things that you want to capture about that relationship, right? Not only do you want to capture that these two data points are related, but you also want to capture some description about that relationship, such as, for instance, the grade you got, right? Well, then we don't call it a mapping table, we call it an association, right? The association, I am describing the relationship, right? It's an association. Right, so I believe you will need to implement these types of relationships for your own projects, right? For instance, when many of your in the requirements, when we went through certain features that were required and that we've discussed privately when we've met, we always say that there should be a relationship between a user and whatever object, domain object you might be considering, recipes or sports teams or cars or whatever, right? There will be a one-to-many relationship, right, between a particular user and whatever it is that you're capturing, right? And there will also be a many-to-many, right? At least, for instance, to capture a relationship between users, right? A many-to-many could also be not only between two tables, it could be between the same table, right? Where perhaps one faculty or one user is following another user, maybe, right? Follows. Saying that user is following that other user, perhaps, right? So there could be several many-to-manys, not only within between domain objects, but also between a user, right, and another user, or user and other domain objects, right? So yeah, so definitely you're going to be encountering those, right, and implementing those in your own project. So let's see how we would go about implementing the data model, the relational data model, and how we would interact with it using the tools we have so far. Okay, the tools we have so far are the out-of-the-box components that we've been playing around since all week. Okay, next week we'll talk about that all these components have have limitations, right? How much you can customize it, or perhaps certain behaviors that are not implemented, and we would like to be liberated from any of these limitations, and we want to have full control over how the interaction occurs between the application and the database, right? That will cover. We'll start covering that next week. Right? But today, let's keep using the components that we have so far, right? And that will also enlighten on what are the limitations, right, of these components, and how, and then it will make us curious on, well, how is it that we might go about implementing our own interaction with the database. Okay, all right. I am showing my screen, right? Okay. All right, so let's start our Visual Studio instance. View full screen. And let's open up, or maybe I already have it open. Okay, I don't. Let's open up the website that we've been working throughout the semester. It's the essential. So, okay. I'm sorry? Where? The recent, you said? Oh, it listed it there, right? Right. Did it list it? Yeah, yeah. No particular reason. I usually just use the keyboard. Yeah. So I do, Alt F, and I just open it right away. Yeah. Right. So I usually don't have a mouse. So I don't know how to use a mouse. Anyway, so let's close all these. And let's see. I believe we had created here several servers and data connections that we started using on Wednesday, and I believe this is the one we were using on Wednesday. Let's see any tables we had created. Courses. There we go. We have courses and reviews. I believe we had started working, creating some one-to-many relationship between two tables, but we didn't get too far. Okay? So let's keep working on that. Let's look at the declaration of this table. If we open it up, we'll see that we have a couple of fields here. We have the title, the price, and a description. Right? Notice that we do have a primary key, but this is referencing nobody, right? So this as far as this course is concerned, says it doesn't know that it's related to anybody. Okay. We did create, I believe, a one-to-many table here, reviews. And this one, I believe, was referencing the course. It says where you have the primary key, you have some data about that, and then it says, I am related to that course, meaning I am a review for that course, right? Now this might be a little more sophisticated in that usually a review is also associated not only to a course, but also associated to whoever wrote the review, right? So this might actually be a good candidate for an association table, right? That says that user wrote this review for that course, right? So instead of having one primary key, foreign key might have actually two foreign keys, right? One to the course that is being reviewed, and one foreign key to the user who wrote the review, right? Let's first work on one-to-many. Let's create a table here for a faculty. So I'm going to call the table faculty. And that faculty has a primary key over here, and I'm going to declare this to be an identity. I don't want to deal with a generation of the primary key. And let's add some fields here. Maybe it has a first name, has a varchar, and has a last name, varchar. Oops. And maybe they have an office. Okay. And let's update that and store that in the database. Let's create some members of the table. Let's populate this and create a couple of faculty. So we can open up the table data, and in there we can type a couple of things. Notice that the ID is light gray, right? So it doesn't want me to type in there, right? It's going to ignore anything that I type in there will be ignored because it's going to pick it itself, right? Using auto increment, right? Or the identity attribute. So here we'll create a Alice Wonderland. We'll create Bob Marley. I'll create Charlie Garcia. And office is 101, 201, and 303. Okay. Right. So we have faculty. Right. What about the courses that they have authored? Right? So the courses. So here's the course, and the course, notice that it only has attributes about itself. Right. It doesn't know that it's related to anybody. So we're going to create that relationship. We're going to say that this course was authored by a particular faculty, right? So to do that, we're going to create a brand new field here. We're going to say author ID, right? And this is going to be the ID of the faculty, right? Who authored this, okay? And it has to have the same type of the value that it's going to be holding, since this field is going to be holding values of the primary key of the other field, of the other table, right? And those primary keys are integers, so this has to be an integer, right? So we'll declare this as an integer, and it can be null, meaning a course might exist, right? But it hasn't yet. I don't know yet who authored it. Okay. I will also have here saying that this author ID is actually a foreign key that references the other table, which is a faculty table, and it references the primary key in that table, right? And the primary key in that table is just ID. Okay. So let's update the course table, and I think we might have created already some courses for the previous lecture. Let's refresh this and look at the data from here. Let's look at the table data for the. So yeah, so we had a couple of courses, but notice that all the author IDs are null, so we don't know who authored them, right? So let's attach some authors to these courses. So we'll have these first three authored by Alice, these three authored by Charlie, and this one authored by. I'm sorry, these three by Bob, and this one and these last two by Charlie. So Charlie and Bob had each one 2, and Alice authored 3 courses. Okay, everybody good? All right. Notice that we can use the same technique that we used last week to very quickly see these courses, these faculties independently of each other, right? So let's look how we would look at that. All right, so let's close all these, and let's review a little bit what we looked at, what we did last lecture. What we did in last lecture, we created pages, and then we dragged the tables right onto the page, right? And that created SQL data sources, created grid views, and then we could replace it to see, what would we want to use to render this, right? So let's go into our workspace, and let's set a folder here that allows us to work with one-to-many. One-to-many. All right, so let's create a page here, and this will be the page that shows all the faculty. Okay, so let's show all the faculty. So this is faculty list, and the faculty list, as the name suggests, lists all the faculty in my table, right? So I'm gonna label this as H1 faculty list, and try this out, see if it works. Oh, so there it is, right? So we have that. That's working. So what we want to be able to do here is have a list here. I'm gonna create a div where we're gonna drag that table in there, and it's gonna add a grid view in there, right? Okay, so in the there we go. Here we have the table, and let's drag the faculty table in there. If we remember, this is what it's going to do. Is going to create a SQL data source, an SQL data source, and a grid view that uses that data source to render a tabular display of all the faculty. Right? If we save that and we refresh that page, oh, I stopped it. Notice that it shows the three faculty that we had originally, and we can configure this the way we did. We can enable editing, enable deleting, and we can change the columns, move them around, right? Okay. Right. So we can still edit and whatnot, right? And cancel. So that's the same thing, right? And we spent quite a bit last Wednesday on playing around and configuring and making it just look pretty. So let's keep going. Right? Let's see. One of the things that we might want to do is add a details page, a faculty details page, where not only will we show the information that is specific to that one entity about that one particular record, but we might show things that are also associated to this particular record. Right. So, for instance, I might show also the courses that were authored by this the particular faculty, right? Or if this faculty bookmarked another faculty, right? They're following another faculty, I would list them here as well. You know, so any information that is related to this one particular person, I would display it in the details page, right? Like the profile. In this case, would be like the faculty's profile page, right? And that's what I mean when I mentioned when we talked about what we're expecting for the project, that profiles should show, right, all details, all information that is related to that one person. Right? If that person is bookmarked a domain object, or bookmarked a search, or bookmarked a person, or bookmarked whatever, right? If it is related to something, it should be listed in my profile. Okay, if I added pictures, if I added whatever content that was generated or is related to that one user, should be displayed in the details page. Okay, so let's do that. Let's add the ability to navigate to a details page. Right, so I'm going to add a new column. It's going to be a hyperlink column that that I'm going to call details, and the header at the top I'm also going to call details, and I'm going to generate a dynamic URL based on the ID of that faculty, right? So that when I navigate to a details page, I'll pass as a parameter the ID of the faculty I want to render. Okay, so I'll put here that I want to use the ID field in my URL. I want to parameterize my URL using the ID field, and that the URL should be faculty details. And then I'm going to pass as a parameter in the query string the faculty ID equal, and then parameterize with the ID at the top. And I can say OK, save, and let's refresh. Okay, so there's details, right? If I click on details, it's going to navigate to a page that doesn't exist yet, right? But notice that that looks promising, right? Notice that the URL looks like it's correct. It's navigating to the right page, and notice that it added the faculty ID at the end. So if I click on this one, it'll say 3, right? So depending on which one I click, it'll pass it along. So let's quickly create that faculty page. I'll say add single and give it a name. And I'm going to put here in H1 faculty details. If I refresh, notice that at least we have that just one, at least the page is working, exists, right? All right, so in here, certainly I can display the details for that user, right, for that faculty. What I could do, actually, let me put a placeholder here so I can drag things in here. So div. What I could do, and this is what we did last lecture, right? What we did is we dragged, we dragged it here, and what it did is created a grid and the data source, right? The data source, but that data source was fairly sophisticated, right? It had all the CRUD operations, right? It had inserts, update, deletes, right? And certainly we can do it again here, but I wanted to see how we could do it by hand from scratch, okay, as opposed to dragging it. Maybe because it's an overkill. The data source is an overkill. It's generating garbage code that we're not going to use anyway, right? For the most part, probably we would use it anyway, because here we would want to be able to edit, maybe, right? We want to be able to update, things like that. But let's see how we would do it by hand. Okay, so let's see. So let's go in here and let's drag. Oh, do I not have toolbox? Where's the toolbox? We're going to drag the details view, but notice no data source. Okay, no data source. Click in here, and I'm going to have to tell it what data source I want to use. It would be a database, and I'll call it faculty data source. And say OK. Notice that this would have been generated for me had I dragged the table in there, right? But we're doing it by hand here. We want to connect to this. We use this connection string. We need to tell it what table we're connecting, because we never dragged it. Now we have to explicitly tell it, right? So it's a faculty table. And also, if I want all the fields or only a few fields, I'll just keep the default that I want all the fields. And by default, this is the select statement that's going to use. Okay. Next. Now this query is going to return all, right? It's going to select all of them. I don't want all of them, right? So instead, I can configure this. I can say where, and then I can instead of typing it by hand, I can use this wizard, right? Let's see what it generates for us. Okay, we perhaps something that we would have generated ourselves. Let's see. So I want to filter by ID, meaning, because remember, this page is receiving, as a parameter, is receiving the faculty ID, right? And I want to map that to this ID. That's how we're going to filter, right? Where ID is equal to what? A query string, right? We can select the query string. The field in the query, right, is called faculty ID. Oops. Why it's not letting me type? Query string. Parameter properties, not letting me type. That's weird. Is equal ID. Huh. Oh, now it is. It was busy or something. I don't know. Faculty ID. The default value, I'll go with 1. What else? Let's see. We'll say add. And say OK. Okay, so we have one where clause. So notice that is a parameterizer, right? You used to not have a where clause, right? But now we're filtering by ID where the ID is from the query string, and that's being parsed from there. Let's say next. So finish. Okay. And I'll save that and refresh this. So notice that we have Charlie, right? So that's because we filtered by 3, right? If we put this here at 2, it'll give us Bob. If we put it 1, we get Alice, right? So it looks like it's working, right? We can go back to the list of faculty to test it from this angle, right? If we say details for Alice, we go back, or details for Bob, there it is. So it is working, or Charlie, right? So let's look at the source that it generated for us, and it's pretty much what we would have generated. So here's the details page. And look at the data source. If you remember the data source for what we were working last lecture, it was fairly elaborate, right? Because it had, it covered all the different types of CRUD, even if you weren't using them, right? It declared them and it configured them, right? Over here we're using only the select clause, right? There it is, the select command, right? And we're parameterizing it, saying that we're going to parse the parameters from a query string. The default value is 1, name ID 1, faculty ID integer 32. Okay. All right. And save. It looks like it's working. Very good. What else? So what else would we want to display here, right? If I'm going to the details of a particular faculty, I might also want, again, all the data that is associated to this one entity, right? And what we have there is that the faculty is associated to various courses, right? So let's display here all the courses that this faculty has authored, right? Down below, we're going to create here, maybe say H2, authored courses. Let's go to design. We could drag in the grid view and then again create a data source, right, to display this. But instead, let's drag it in, right? Let's drag it in. Oh no, not the grid view. Sorry, the courses. Let's drag the courses. Right, let's save. If we look at the details, you'll notice that it's listing all the courses. Right? But we know that this faculty has not authored all the courses. In fact, we know that this faculty's ID is 1. They only have authored these 3 courses, right? They have not authored these other 4 courses, right? Actually, right here we can see that they were authored by 2 other faculty, not this one, right? So, and the reason it's picking up all of them is that the select statement is a very generic select statement, right? It's the one that grabs everything, right? With no, it doesn't discriminate, right? It just it has no where clause. It doesn't filter. So we're going to have to go back and modify that select statement. Let's go to source. Okay. And here's the grid view that we drag, right? We drag the table, and it created the grid view for us. There it is. And here's it's using this data source, right? It's called the SQL data source. I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call it course data source, right? So let's call this, let's rename this to course data source. Okay, and let's see if this still works. Okay, still works. Right, I just renamed it to be course data source. All right, so let's see. What we need to do here is that the reason that change that select command, right? Because the reason that it's displaying all the courses is that it's using a very generic select statement. So let's modify that select statement to filter by the author. Okay, so here's the select statement that it's using right now, right? It just selects all the records and there is no discrimination. So here we're going to add a filter that says I only want those courses whose ID is the ones I will tell you in a second. Okay, the ones that is equal to ID, and I'll tell you where to get the ID. The ID, you should get that ID from the query string. We're going to configure the select parameters. We're going to tell it that to grab that ID from the query string. And we're going to say that the name of the field that I'm configuring is ID, right? So this matches that, right? That's the ID. Okay. Actually, is that what we want? Are we filtering by course ID? Actually, no, right? What are we passing in the URL? We're passing faculty ID, right? So no, we don't want to filter. We're not passing the ID of a particular course. We're passing the ID of a particular author, right? So that's how we want to. I was just seeing if you were awake. Right, author ID, right? So again, now that the name of the ID is not ID, is author ID. The type is integer, and and I was going to grab it from a query string, and the field name is called faculty ID, right? And for us, faculty ID and author ID mean the same thing. Yes.
So that's the way it's on the page.
Uh-oh, did I change the wrong one? I'm sorry, update. Update was okay. Did I change author? No, I changed the right one, author ID. Yeah. Select command, that's correct. Author ID. Yeah, what were you saying? I'm sorry?
Right. Right there.
Here?
That one.
Yep, what about it?
Why would you that be just the ID if that's the way it came to the page?
No, the page didn't even have a where clause. The page was like that. Hello? It's like that. Came like this. No?
Yeah, no, the where clause is okay.
No, it wasn't there. The where clause was not there for the select statement. The select statement did not have a where clause. It's a grid view, right? So it's displaying all the courses. So it selects all the courses.
Right. But you put the where clause.
I put the where clause because I want only those courses that were authored by the current faculty that I'm displaying.
Authored ID equals should have been just plain @ID because that's the way it occurs on the page.
Well, no, what I have is the faculty ID I'm passing as an argument, right?
Yeah.
As an attribute. That I need to map it to this to this field author ID, right? Whatever the I call it, I could call it whatever I want, right? As long as it matches, right, this name, whatever name I choose there, right? So that name could be whatever, right? So let's put that back. So this could be whatever, right? And this one has to match that, right? I'm saying that field, right? That parameter, I'll tell you where to fetch it from. Where are you going to fetch it? Fetch it from a query string called faculty ID. Right? Okay. So this is saying I'm delegating. I'm not saying yet what the value of this is. I will tell you at runtime. It's not hard-coded. I'll tell you in a minute where to get it from. It's from this query string faculty ID, which is what the page gives me, right? The faculty ID. Right, I'm grabbing it from there. So that maps to this, and then this maps to that. Okay, so that's how the connection is made. All right. So now it's not going to return all the courses. It will only return the courses whose author ID is equal to that ID there, right? So for instance, if this is 1, it'll only return these 3, right? If it's 2, it'll return these 2, right? If it's 3, it'll return these 2. Make sense? Right? So if we refresh now, notice that indeed, now it's only returning those 3 for faculty ID 1, right? Or these 2 for faculty ID 2, right? These are the courses that were authored. Make sense? Everybody okay? Okay. Right. What about if they author more courses? Right. Say they author more courses. So perhaps the faculty would want a UI here to say, oh, I just authored this new course, right? And they can enter here the course immediately, right? So what we could do here is we could have here at the end saying H2 new course author. Okay, and what we want to do here is maybe use a again the course table. We still want to work with a course table, but instead of a grid view, what I want is some kind of like a details view, right? That is configured for insertion, right? That would allow me to type real quick these values and then choose to insert this brand new course that I created, right? And that course it'll generate its own ID, right? Because that's auto increment, right? And for the author ID, I have the value for the author ID, right? It's the author. It's the current author who's looking at their page, right? So let's do that. Let's go in here, and what we could do is again start with the tools and with the grid view, right? And configure that. I'm lazy. I'm just gonna drag in the course. I know it's gonna generate a grid view, right? Actually, no. I already have a data source, don't I? I already have this data source. I already have a data source that connects to the course, right? That has the selects, right? Has the inserts, the updates, whatnot. So actually what I could do is, where's the tool? Tool. Toolbox. There it is. I'm going to drag this grid view. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not the grid view, the details view. Drag it in there and say, use the data source that already exists that I declared earlier. Use the same faculty data source. Okay. And I want to edit the fields. New course. Wait, what is it using? Not faculty. Sorry. Course, the course data source. There it is. No, wait a minute. Let me do it again from scratch. Delete. Hey, why it's not deleting? Okay, there we go. Let's drag it again. The data source we're going to use is the course data source. There it is. Okay, and I want to enable insertion. I want to enable insertion. Okay, so that I can insert, and I want to configure this to be the properties. Where's the properties? Oh, am I running? I don't see the property. Oh, there's the properties. What I want to do is configure so that it's default behavior is to be in an insertion mode, right? Insertion mode. And let's save that. Let's save. Let's refresh this. Notice that at the bottom now it allows me to insert the course, right? But notice that one of the things that it's listing here is the author ID. I don't want to have to type that, right? Actually, I already have the author ID, don't I? It's faculty ID, right? So that actually what I want, when it inserts this new record, actually I wanted to use that faculty ID that I already have. Okay, so what I could do is I could go into this data source, and if you remember, we dragged this in here, right? So I have all the various commands in here, right? And all they're already been parameterized. Notice that the insert command says, okay, I'm going to insert a course, and with the values that I'm going to grab from the input fields, right, from the text box, right? You know, whatever you type for the title, the price, the description, that's what I'm going to insert. Okay, whatever you type for the author ID and everything, right? So and here they're parameterized to grab the values from the text boxes. Okay, by default, that's the default. Grab the values from whatever they type in the text boxes, right? So, but we don't want to do that for the author ID. Okay, we don't want to do that for the author. What we want to do is instead delete this, right? My delete is not working. Backspace. Oh no, I lost my keyboard. What happened to my keyboard? Oh. Actually, I wanted to use something very similar to what I did with the select statement, right? Because the select statement is already configured, right, to grab things from the query string. And that's what I want the insert to do. I grab the author ID already from the faculty, right? So I'll copy that, and I'll replace my author ID parameter. I'll replace it with this. It's a query string parameter instead. Now the field is not called whatever in the insert command, right? What is it called? In the insert, the author ID is just called @author ID. Okay, so let me use that as the name of the field. Select, insert. It's not whatever. It's author ID. It's 133, but it's still going to grab it from the query string field faculty ID. Right. So let's do that. So now if I refresh. Right, and I add a new course, and I say title is C++. Okay, and I type insert. Okay, notice that C++ has been added to my list of courses that I've added that I've authored. Make sense? Okay. So yeah, so here's how we're working with two different data sets, right? We're working with two tables that are related to one another, right? Through this relationship of foreign key, primary key, right? And we're using that relationship, right, to display some data from one table and some data from another table, right? So this is data from the faculty table. This is data from the courses table, but they are related to one another. Through this primary key, foreign key. Make sense? Okay, so let's start looking at how might we relate this to other things, right? So first of all, let's go to a details page of the course, right? Once we have the details of a course, we might want to do things such as the course is related to students because students are enrolled in a particular course. So if I'm looking at the details of a course, right, I might look at all the students that are enrolled in that course. Yes. Or if I look at it from the student's point of view, I would like to see all the courses that that student is enrolled in. Right. Depends from where you want to filter. Right. And SQL allows us to do this. Right. Navigate. It's a two-way binding, right? Two-way navigation between one or the other, as long as you match the primary key and foreign keys. Okay. All right. So let's do that. Let's navigate to the course for now. Course detail. Oh man, I need a new keyboard. Let's go here, design, and in the authored courses, I'm going to add an additional column called details that links me to course. So details for that course, and I'm going to go to course details.aspx, and then the ID. I'm going to pass it the course ID that I'm going to grab from the ID of that record. And say okay. Save. If I go back and I refresh, right? I can now navigate to the particular details of that course. I can go there, course. Now that page doesn't exist yet, right? So let's grab the name of that page and let's create it. We'll go here, create course details. Course details. This is H1 course details. At least now we have a placeholder for that. And here we'll display the various informations for that course, right? So the information for it, right, that lives in that record, in that table. And then we want to display the information of what am I related to, right? I'm related to that faculty who authored me. I'm related to all these students that are enrolled in this course, right? So for now, we only have the information about ourselves and our author, right? So let's display that. So let's have a div here. Can you use that keyboard? What's going on? Really? I'll try this. Will this work? Ah! I have a keyboard. Wait a minute. I think this is a better keyboard. Can I go into full screen? All right, that gives me a little bit. Let's see, course details. All right, so what are we doing here? We are doing a div. Oh no, this is not going to work. The tablet that wants to be a notebook, right? And in here, we want to drag. What do we want to drag? Let's see. We want to drag the. Oops. View SQL Server Explorer. We want to drag in here. No, this is not going to work. Oh, isn't there a way that I can see the whole thing here? No, there isn't. I could have sworn there was a way that. No, let me see. What's wrong with this connection? Please work. Okay, got it back. Okay, let's go to design and let's quickly drag in the course. And what I want here is I don't want a grid view. I want a detail view. So let me drag the detail view. And I'm going to use that data source that is there. And I'm going to filter this, right, by what I'm passing what as an argument. I'm passing course ID, right? So I need to update the select statement. All right, find select command. There it is. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to add here a where the ID is equal to an ID that I'm going to pass you. And I'm going to configure here a select parameter, and it's going to be a query string parameter that's going to configure the ID field that I just gave it another parameter. The type is integer 32, and the query string is going to parse it out from course ID. I believe that's what we called it, right? So now this shows AngularJS. That's ID number 5. If I go back and I click on this one, it'll show me MongoDB. So it looks like it's working in C++, right? The only other thing that I might want to show here is the author, right? The author. For that, I could what we could do is add a section for the author, right? So we could say, H2 about the author, right? And then we can grab here information about the author, right? Because these two are related to one another. So how would we do that? We want to display what? Because we really have what? We have the course. We have the course ID, and the course ID would tell me the course. And if I have the course, from the course I can grab the author ID, and that author ID can be used to retrieve the faculty, right? So we would need to do some kind of join, right? We'll need to join. So let's do that. Let's drag in here. I don't need this. I want to show authors here, right? So let's drag authors or faculty in here. I don't want all the authors. Actually, I know there's only one, right? So let me drop this in here so it'll generate all the SQL. But what I really want is the grid view, the details view, right? Because it'll be only one. And this is going to be using that second SQL source, the data source that it's there. And for this, if I save, notice that if I render this, it'll always grab the first author, right? The first faculty, because that's the default behavior, right? It doesn't matter which course I choose. Notice that it's always choosing Alice, right? Instead of Bob, right? It should be showing Bob, right? So we're going to change that select statement that is being used right now. And the select statement is way down here. There it is. And so here's the select statement, right? What I want to do is here says I want the faculty ID. Yes, I'm going to filter by faculty ID whose faculty ID matches the course.author ID, right? Whose course ID matches the course ID that I'm passing as an argument. Make sense? Right? Right. I have the course ID, so let's do that. I'm going to need two tables, right? Because I need to start at the course because that's what I have. I have a course ID. And I have to navigate to the faculty table, right? So I need both tables, of course. So what do I have? I have faculty ID. Oh, sorry, I have course ID. So course ID. That will tell me which course, right? So here is course.id. Now I have the course. Now that I have identified the course, I can identify now the author ID, right? Because I have the course. So course.author ID, because now I have the course, right? Now I have the course ID, and that has to match the ID of the record of the faculty that I want, right? So this will be faculty. .id. Okay, and the only thing that is parameterized here is this field, which I'm going to grab from the query string. So let's add that. I'm going to parameterize the select statement. Select parameter. It's a query parameter. I am configuring this field course ID. That's in the select statement, right? The type is integer 32. And I'm going to parse a field, which I believe it's also called course ID. Let me see. Yes, course ID, right? Course ID. Anything else? I think that's it. Okay, so let's try this again. Oops. Ambiguous column name ID. Okay, so all right. So what happens here is that, right? So it's selecting ID, first, last, office, blah blah blah. All those things from where? Well, from faculty, right? But it turns out the course also has a field called ID, right? So it's confused. Which ID do you mean? Do you mean the faculty's IDs or the course ID? So we'll need to explicitly say that this is the faculty IDs that you're retrieving, right? What? Invalid comment. Oh, did I? That? Maybe. There it is. Okay, there it is. Notice how now it comes out with Bob, right? The correct link. Okay, right? The correct author. So for all these, this one Angular was authored by Bob. The MongoDB was also authored by Bob. So that works. Okay, it works. All right. So let's move on to many-to-many. Let's look at the database. We have faculty. Faculty and course are related to one another. Let's now create a student table, right? So that we can track which students are enrolled in which course. All right. So we'll create a table here. We'll call it student. And student, I'm also going to use identity. Oops. It's going to have more or less the same first and last of the faculty, and this is hinting at us that we might want to create some kind of generalization, right? Where we have maybe a base class, right, from where faculties and students inherit common traits. Yes. And we would have to implement tables for that, but that's a topic for database implementation. So let's keep it as simple as possible, right? First name, last name, maybe the year, grad year, the year that they're going to graduate, and this is an integer. Okay, and other features that are specific to students. Let's update this. I think we're all set. Update. Notice that I didn't add here any relationship between the student and the course. So the student table has no idea that the course table exists, and the course table has no idea that the student table exists, right? There's no meaning, there's no relationship between the two, even though we do want a relationship between the two, right? To do that, we're going to use a mapping table, right? An in-between table that will tell us, which courses is a particular student enrolled in. So I'm going to declare here an enrollment table that will tell me, which students are enrolled in what course, right? So for this, we're not going to use a primary key. Okay. Instead, we're going to declare two fields, right? Two fields. One that is references courses, and one that references the students, right? Saying that one is enrolled in the other. Let's do that. Let's have here course ID is an integer, it can be null, and this is a foreign key that references the course table in the ID field. And student ID int null foreign key references student ID. Okay. Let's save that. Okay. One other thing that we might want to add here is maybe the grade you got in that course. So this might be grade. And this might be, could be an integer, or it could be a grade, a varchar. Okay, it can be null. All right. Okay. So we have those two tables. Let's refresh. Right. So this enrollment table is gonna relate courses with students. Okay. All right. So let's see, and let's enroll some students in some. So let's create a couple of students. All right. Let's create the students. So this might be Edward Norton, and he graduated 2018. Frank Herbert, 2017. Craig Daniels, 2020. Herbert Hoover, 2025. Isaac Asimov, he died a while ago. He already graduated. What else? Jason Statham. Okay, all right. All right, so we have those. We have some students, and now let's create some enrollments and say, so-and-so student is enrolled in so-and-so course, right? So to do that, we're going to go into the enrollment table. Now, all our students, we have 6 students, right? 1 through 6. And courses, what do we have here in courses? In courses, we have 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We don't have 2, course number 2. So let's make sure not to use course number 2. Right, so let's open up the enrollment, right, and say that in course 1 we have student 1 enrolled there, right, and in course 2 we also have student 1, right? So student 1 is enrolled in 2 courses, right? Oops. Oh, I can't use 2, right? There's no course 2, 3. Thank you. And then 4. So student 1 is enrolled in 3 courses. Student 2 is enrolled in another 3 courses, and it's overlapping. What? The row do not make the row unique. What? Student ID, course ID. Three. Course ID. The foreign key, right? Enrollments. Foreign key. Foreign key. Integer. Course ID. Student ID. Grade. What is it? What are you complaining about? What's wrong with my 3? The row values updated or deleted either do not make the row unique or they alter multiple rows. 3 rows. Huh. 5. Close it. What's going on? Okay. Fine, whatever. What is it going on? What is it? I'm sorry? Oh, these guys over here? Oh, why did I do that? Oh, it's not letting me. I can't move. I can't touch these. New rows, disable. Can I delete this? 3. Yeah, it doesn't allow me. Huh. Enrollment. What's going on here? Delete. Go away. Oh wow, I can't delete it now. Right, yeah, it's saying, you know, I'm deleting this one, and there's 3 of them that have exactly the same value. I can't distinguish any of them, right? I'm just gonna delete it. Okay, let me build it again. Enrollment. All right. Maybe I'll leave that primary key. Yes.
Can you add primary key as multiple foreign key?
Oh, that would have been a good idea. Yeah, we could generate those 2 and say that those 2 are primary key. Right. I'm just going to leave the ID there as an identity, just to guarantee that those are unique. All right, student ID is integer, and then we'll say this is course ID. ID. And both of these, I will say that they're foreign keys. There's a student, right? Student ID. There you go. Okay. So let me refresh this. Okay. So table data. All right, it's empty. Oh, I didn't put grade, but okay, that's fine. Let's leave that. So student ID, okay, so it's 1, course is 1, student 1, not 2, 3. Student 1 is in class 4. And then we have, oh yeah, no, that would, adding that primary key would have stopped me from saying that a student was enrolled twice in the same course, right? That would have been good. Anyway, so student 2 is enrolled also in course number 4. So there's an overlap between student 1 and student 2. They're both in course number 4. Student 2 is also in course number 5. Student 2 is in course number 6. Student 3 is overlap with student 2 in 5. And 3 is also in 6. Okay. All right, let's leave it like that. All right. Okay, so having that, when I navigate to the details of a course, one of the things that I would like to be able to see, right? Well, who's enrolled in this course? Right? What are all the students that are enrolled in this course? Right. So let's revisit our details, course details. Let's close all documents. Let's revisit our course details, right? And notice that at the bottom, at first we had the information about that particular course, right? Then we had information about our parent table, right? The faculty is our parent because we are children of the author, right? You know, a parent author has many children courses, yes? And actually, I'm going to leave that at the bottom of the page, right? Before the author, I'll put here the list of students that are enrolled, right? So I'll put here H2. I'll say H2 students enrolled in this course. Okay, and we'll put it in here. In there, we're gonna drag in. So what is it that we want to display? We want to display students, right? And so I'm going to drag in the students. Now, if I drag the students, by default, right, it's going to show all the students, right? Right. Wait, graduation year? Oh, this is looking at the wrong one, huh? Oh no, that's right. Graduation year. That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So let's save that. Now, if I refresh, notice that it shows all the students, right? But this is not correct. Not all the students are enrolled in this course. I have to filter. I want only those students that are enrolled in this course, right? And to know that, I know the name of the course, but notice that the student has no field whatsoever, right? That tells me what course is each one enrolled in, right? Where is that information? It's in the enrollment table, right? So I need to now join these two tables to be able to fetch what are the IDs of the actual students that I want. Okay, so let's see the data source that we're going to use here, and look at the select statement that it's using, right? So let's find the select statement. So the select statement says fetch all the students, basically. I'm going to fetch all the students. But what I have here is the course ID. I have the course ID. So starting from the course ID, I have to navigate to the students, right, that I really want, right? For that, I'll need to navigate through the enrollment table, right? So I'll need also here the enrollment table, right? So starting at the course ID parameter that I'm gonna pass as an argument, right? That I'm going to first filter on all the enrollments, right, for the course that I'm looking at. So that's going to be enrollment dot course ID. I believe the field is also called course ID. All right, so those have to match. Now that I have identified the enrollments, right, I can now identify from those enrollment. I can identify now the student ID, right, for that particular enrollment, right. So here's the enrollment, student ID, and that has to match the ID of the record that I want to show, of the student record I want to show, of student dot ID. Okay, right. Now it's going to give me the same error as before. This ID over here, right? This ID is ambiguous because the enrollment table also has an ID field, right? So we're going to have to qualify this so that it's uniquely identified as a parameter field inside of the student table. Okay. So let's try this now. Let's refresh. Oops. Okay, yeah. Okay, we created the parameter, but we never parameterized it, so it doesn't know where to get this course ID. So we're going to tell it that it should get that course ID from a select parameter. Right, that's going to grab it from a query string. The name of the field that I'm configuring is the course ID. The type is integer, and it's going to retrieve it from a course ID field in the query string. So the query string field is called also course ID. Let's refresh. Course ID. I get the same error. I don't have any course client incorrect syntax near course ID. Did I mistype the select statement? Oh, we need a where clause, right? It would help a where clause in between here. All right, there we go. Well, apparently, no one is enrolled in C++. Let's go back to see the list of the faculty. All right, so let's see, anybody enroll in Angular? Yes, we have 2 students enrolled in Angular, Frank and Greg. Let's see, MongoDB. We also have Frank and Greg. Really? Same 2? That's suspicious. Enrollment. Are there 2 people that are enrolled in the same course? Oh, 3535 2525. 262. Okay, yeah, right. Maybe. Let's. Can you go to another faculty? Maybe. Let's go to another faculty. Alice. Authored courses. Look at the details. Let's see. Anybody in ASP.NET? Edward Norton. Okay, so yes, it looks like it's working. And C#, we have also Edward Norton. Edward Norton and Frank are in here. So you see that now we can use these joins, right, to filter exactly what we want. Now that we have the course details and the students, I should be able to navigate to the students too, right? Notice that what we've been creating is like a drill down, right? We start off from a faculty, the faculties, from all faculty, we drill down to a particular faculty. Then we drill down to all the courses related to that faculty. And from that course, I can see all the students. I now should be able to go to the details of that particular students, right? I should be able to navigate backwards and forwards, right? So that's what I mean for in the projects, right? That you should provide all these navigations amongst everything that is related to one another, okay? Right. So in the students that are enrolled, I should be able to navigate to the details of the students. So in the course details here, when I render the student, I want to have an additional column here that allows me to navigate. I want to say add a new column. Also a linked column that allows me to go to the details of the student. So details, and I'm going to grab the data from a URL. So I'm going to use the ID of the student, right? Because I want the details of the students. I want to go here to student details.aspx, and the student ID is equal to the first parameter. Okay, save, and as I render this again, notice that I have the details, right? I can look at the details for that particular student. Student details does not exist, so let's create that page. Okay, let's go here and let's create the page here. Student details and H1 student details. At least we have a placeholder for that, right? Let's how long do I have? A minute. So let's display the details for the student here. So let's drag in there the students, right? Let's drag in there the student, and I don't want all the students, right? I want only the one that based on the student ID that I'm passing as an argument. So this is going to be select command. Is a select command. I don't want the update. Where the ID of the student is equal to an ID that I'm going to pass you as an argument, and I'm going to configure that parameter, and this is a query parameter. The name of the parameter is ID. The type is integer 32, and the query string is what is it? Student ID? Is that what I call it? Student ID? Student ID. There it is. So we have Edward Norton there, right? Oh, I don't want a grid view. Not grab a grid view. Instead, let's change it to a detail view. And the data source is the same data source as before. There it is. So we have a details view. So what are the things that are related to that student? The enrollments, right? The courses that student is enrolled in, right? So I want to display here all the courses that student is enrolled in, right? So for that, we're going to add here a section, H2, courses enrolled in. So notice that this is the inverse relationship that we had earlier. Before, it's, you know, I was giving you a course and show you all the students that are enrolled in the course. This one's backwards. I give you the student, it tells you all the courses that that student is enrolled in. So it's an inverse relationship. So here we have the placeholder where we're going to add all the courses. So let's drag the courses in there. At first, this is going to display all the courses, obviously, right? But these are all the courses. But obviously, these are not all the courses that this student is enrolled in, right? So instead, we're going to filter, just like we did filter the courses. We're going to filter these courses using the enrollment, right? So let's go in here and let's configure the select statement that is being used. Right. So the select statement, select. Right, and so we're going to do the same thing we did earlier. We're going to have to do a join. We're going to say we're going to join with the enrollment table. Where are we starting? We're starting with students. We have this. Is that what we do? We have the student ID, right? So it's starting with student ID, right? I'm going to pattern match that with the enrollments, right? Because so I'm going to identify all the enrollments for this student. All right, so I'm going to do enrollment dot student ID. I think it's student ID. And now that I have identified the enrollment, I'm going to identify the courses, right? So the enrollment dot course ID, and that's going to be equal to the ID of the record that I'm at, right? So this is course dot ID, right? And this ID is the course ID that I want. Right, not any other any ID, right? So now I have to parameterize that student ID parameter and grab that from the query string. So select parameters. This is going to be a query parameter. I'm configuring the student ID, right? That's the student ID. The type is integer 32. The query string is also called student ID. Right. So now if I come back here, it tells me. Wait a minute. What? Student ID. Wait a minute. Course. Did I do this right? Courses enrolled. Student ID. No, I'm not enrolling all those courses. What did I do wrong? Let's see. What do we do? Student ID. There's a title, price, and it's using data source SQL data source 2, which is this one. And this is selecting from the course. Where student, at student ID. Okay, there it is. Yes, I'm enrolled in only these 3 courses. Okay, all right. All right. So yeah. So what do we do? All right. We noticed that we were able to first introduce the one-to-many relationship, right? Where we are modeling a parent-child relationship, right? Where we have the faculty having the kind of like the ownership of the courses, right? So all those courses are owned by the faculty. Sometimes we call it a has-a relationship, right? A faculty has many courses, right? And then we also looked at being able to use mapping tables, right, to relate records from different tables and say that these are related to one another, right? Then we noticed that we use this technique called the join table, right, to be able to navigate from one table to the next, right, through these primary key, foreign key, primary key, foreign key, right, following the trail, right, these links that connect these records, right? I believe this is enough for what you need in the course, for your project, right? Please, and it is part of the requirement that you create these kinds of relationships in the with domain objects and other users, right? users following other users and whatnot. Okay. All right, I'm gonna leave it here. And let me stop this.